So greetings, my friend. I'm Matt Schifferly, and welcome to my new course on helping you seriously level up your potential to do everything you want with it, building muscle and strength, losing weight, or improving performance by making this whole health and fitness thing a heck of a lot easier and much more efficient. In today's episode, I'm going to be exploring why you absolutely must make things easier in order for you to get better results in fitness, why making things easier is so important for your overall happiness and quality of life, and some of the dogmatic ideologies surrounding hard work that have led you to essentially get ripped off by making you invest far more work than necessary for a fraction of your potential results. So first and foremost, there's just no getting around the fact that if you want better results, you simply have to make your diet and exercise habits easier and more efficient. And this isn't a fitness thing. This is just how success has always happened for human beings throughout the entire course of human history. Everything that we've been able to level up on, from communication, from production, from just simple social connections, has only been possible because someone around that endeavor figured out a way to be just as productive with less work. Because at the end of the day, fitness is not just a physical thing. It's not even just a mental or emotional thing. It's also an economic thing. In order to get results, you have to work hard. And this is not going to change that by any means. You have to invest effort and work and sustained work and effort in order to not only achieve those results, but maintain them as well. And hard work fundamentally is not about moral fortitude or anything, the self-righteousness. It's simply the expenditure of resources. You're spending your time, you're spending your effort, physical effort, mental effort, emotional effort. You're spending your own money and other resources. And the fact is, we all have finite resources. We're limited by these things. And so while you always can make some degree of improvement and progress by working more, aka spending more resources, the increase in work increases the effort in spending those resources, but it also means that you have a very low glass ceiling on your potential, because eventually you're just going to run out of resources. You're going to hit a limit of how much you can or are willing to work. And that's a pretty low ceiling too. It's well below what you probably want to achieve. So the only way you can transcend beyond that glass ceiling that will permanently hold you in check is to find ways to make your habits more efficient so you can be more productive with less work or the expenditure of less resources. And it's also because of the expenditure of resources that making things more efficient is integral into your overall happiness, your health and well-being, and your quality of life. Because these resources that we're talking about, like time and energy and money, aren't just sitting around waiting for you to eat right and exercise. They're also things that you use for other endeavors and interests in your life. So whenever you're investing more time and energy and other resources towards your health and fitness goals, you're essentially taking those resources from other things in your life. And sometimes that doesn't matter all that much. If you're taking TV time away from binge watching Netflix or doom scrolling, that's fine. But if your goal is to just work as hard as possible in fitness, eventually you start taking resources away from very important things that arguably could even be more important than health and fitness. And that's why a lot of people who become obsessive about diet and exercise, like I used to be, can actually erode their overall health, their happiness, and their quality of life in the pursuit of those objectives. It's also worth mentioning that trying to make things easier isn't about being lazy. It's not something that is a moral shortcoming or anything. If anything, it's one of the best qualities that are hardwired into our human nature. Because our ancestors, if we didn't have an easier way to forage for food, build shelter, or foster social connections, we simply didn't survive. We didn't have enough calories to feed ourselves. We spent too much time exposed to the elements, and we became socially isolated from those around us, which meant death. So this idea of we've got to find easier, more efficient ways to be productive isn't a modern day shortcoming of like a poor work ethic. It's something that we've always understood is essential for our very survival. And it's not just our actual physical survival that's important, but the survival of our habits. As I've explored in many other videos before this about the essential fundamental nature of motivation, we need things to have a worthwhile payoff in order to feel motivated to continue doing those habits. Because if you're not motivated to engage in diet and exercise habits, you simply won't do them. And your survival of the results that you're after, because the survival of those habits, will simply cease to exist. Our motivation is always down to that emotional balance sheet between perceived costs and perceived rewards. And if something takes too much work and doesn't really pay off, motivation for that will tank, as it well should, because that's a very healthy response. It's your emotional subconscious telling you, hey, what you're doing isn't worthwhile. It's not paying off. You should stop doing this. So by making things easier and more efficient, you flip that script. You get much more worthwhile payoffs at much lower levels of work or cost, which means you stand a greater chance of surviving those habits, the survival of those habits, so your results will come much better, and you get to keep them in the long run while improving your quality of life. But I know this is going to be a bit of a hard sell, because the idea of taking shortcuts and making things easier in diet and exercise isn't the usual common rhetoric in our fitness culture. If anything, we're told to do the opposite, which is what I personally believed and followed for many years myself, much to my own detriment to my health, well-being, quality of life, and my overall results. So let's look at some of the ideas out there in our fitness culture that have led you astray and totally misled you in this relationship. So the first reason why we worship at the altar of endless hard work and effort is because, well, we simply don't know what we're doing. When it comes to achieving what you want from your diet and exercise habits, you need to understand the fundamental objectives that are responsible for your success. We'll be covering those in further videos. But a lot of folks don't know what those objectives are. And when you don't have a clearly defined purpose behind your habits, hard work and effort itself becomes the objective. And for good reason. Because yes, there is a very strong correlation between how much you put in and how much you get out of your habits. The problem is that when you make hard work itself the goal, it's real easy to just work yourself to death. It's ironically enough almost something of a lazy habit to just say, I'm just going to work a heck of a lot more. I'm going to go to the gym more, do more sets, more workouts. I'm going to make my diet even more restrictive, because that's the easy thing to do, especially when you don't know what you're actually trying to achieve. But once you do know what you're trying to achieve, then you put in enough work to achieve those objectives, but you also don't overdo things and then waste a lot of time and energy, which then holds you back. The second reason why we often over-evangelize hard work is just simply due to ego. Back in the day, people used to say, oh, Matt, of course you can be in shape and you can build muscle and you can be lean and stuff because it's easy for you. And I used to take a lot of offense at that. It's like, what do you mean it's easy for me? I'm the hardest worker in the room. No one will ever outwork me kind of ideas. And I now know that was a very stupid and foolish idea on my part, but I did that because I was insecure, I had low self-esteem, and I was leaning too much on hard work to try to bolster up my personal self-worth. And so when someone said, oh, it's easy for you, that was a pot shot at the thing that I was literally basing my self-esteem and self-worth on. Now I take it as a matter of pride. And people are like, oh, it's easier for you. It's like, damn right it's easier for me. It's a heck of a lot easier than it used to be. And I've done a lot of work and I've put a lot of effort into making it as easy as possible because I'm no longer basing my self-worth on that. But that's the thing we have to transcend, is that hard work is not a thing about morality. It's not about your quality as a human being or anything like that. But this idea is very present that, oh, your worthiness stems from your hard work, which really doesn't, because that's, again, just the expenditure of resources. The third reason why we often like to put hard work and effort on a pedestal is because we have a lot of uncertainty in the world of fitness. A lot of people, we come into the world of fitness because we feel very insecure and uncertain about our bodies. Insecure about how it looks. We feel uncertain about what we need to do in our workouts and our diets and stuff. And this insecurity and this uncertainty often leads us into what I like to call the overs. Overtraining, overworking, over-researching, over-dieting. We feel like I don't know for sure what I'm supposed to be doing, so I'm just going to keep applying hard work and effort endlessly until I can fill in the void that I feel within, and then eventually I'll feel certain and be able to know for sure what to do. But the fact is, you actually don't want this, because a little bit of uncertainty is the key to perpetual growth and discovery. Someone who is 100% sure what the best diet or exercise program is, or 100% sure about anything, is someone who has essentially closed off their mind and is no longer open to new ideas and the potential for growth. So yes, you want to have enough information to say, okay, I know what to do in order to keep moving forward or to take the next steps. But a little bit of uncertainty is a very good thing, and we need to be comfortable with that. And that largely stems from low self-esteem or self-worthiness issues that we often have to deal with. But the insecurity or unsureness about our diet and exercise habits is actually a good thing. We don't want to eliminate that. More importantly, you can't eliminate that by just working yourself to death. The fourth reason why we're often indoctrinated with the propagandic messages that, oh, hard work will save you from yourself and everything, is it's just everywhere, especially in the corporate world, in the fitness world, and everywhere around. But if you ever notice that a lot of the individuals who are really championing the idea of working yourself to death are the very individuals who benefit from your work. And that's not always a bad thing. I've always wanted those who have hired me in jobs that I've had in coaches and stuff to enjoy success at my benefit as well. But it's got to be an equal and opposite thing. Like, okay, you get a benefit from my hard work, but I should as well. But we do need to recognize that a lot of times the idea of just work yourself to death isn't for your benefit, it's for their benefit. And the more you recognize that, the more you can be on the lookout for when it becomes a dangerous level of work and effort on your part, because it's no longer your advantage, it's theirs. The next reason for hard work being on a pedestal is this idea, and I fell for this one too, that other people value it in ourselves, that other people will look at how hard we're working and they're gonna think, oh, that's a really strong person, and that's a good husband or a good brother and a good partner and things. When the reality is, the vast majority of people out there don't care how hard you work. Most people don't care if you're working yourself to death or putting in the overtime hours or spending a lot more time in the gym. And in fact, most people would prefer you're not working so hard. A little personal story to illustrate this point. Years ago, I came over to a girlfriend's house in college, and I thought I was going to walk into a hero's welcome because I'd been working myself to death academically, studies, and in the gym all day long, and it wasn't until relatively late at night that I could finally get to her place. But she wasn't impressed with that. In fact, she was upset with me, the fact that I wasn't there until so late. She was upset. She wasn't feeling very well that day. She's like, I just want you to be here for me. I don't want you to be in the gym for 5 hours. I want you to be here. So by and large, most people don't value your hard work as much as you may think. And if anything, they would prefer you not work nearly as hard. 2 more to go here. The reasons why we think that hard work is so awesome is that, yeah, oftentimes it does work. Now, if you are a beginner, or if you're not putting in much effort or work into a particular area, then absolutely working harder and just putting in more time and effort and other resources can absolutely move the needle and make a very big difference. And I've certainly experienced this, as other people have, particularly when I was a young martial artist. I only went to 1 Taekwondo class a week. And then I was able to go to twice a week, and that made a pretty big difference in my training. And then 3 times a week, and I was like, oh, this is even better. And then 4 and 5 and 6, and sometimes I would even go to 7 classes a week. But in all honesty, there's that diminishing rate of return. My training did not really return any sort of benefits from going from 4 classes a week to 7. And if I'm really honest, that 4th class wasn't even worth it. But it does bode well when initially we're like, okay, I did more workouts, I restricted my diet more, I did everything more, I worked more, I got better results, so therefore more is always better. But of course, you've got to contend with diminishing rate of return, which the more work you put in, the less you get back. But the amount of effort and work you have exponentially increases. And this is because the more limited your resources are, the more effort it takes to spend them. If you're down to your last dollar, buying something for $10 is a lot of work and effort. But if you've got more resources, which we'll explore later on how to do that, buying something for $10 doesn't feel like a big deal. And that's why we can't work ourselves to death. Even though initially it may have worked, we don't want it to be our ultimate long-term strategy and instead use other strategies we'll be discussing in this course. And then finally, the last reason why we often think hard work is the ultimate answer is because we've long been conditioned to believe that there are no shortcuts to anywhere worth going, that the easier path is the wrong path, or the magic pill out there isn't really your friend. And to a degree, this is absolutely true, because a lot of the scams and a lot of the falsehoods out there didn't really help you. But those weren't actually striving to be shortcuts. They were actually detours. They were taking you from where you were to where you want to be, and instead of going in a straight line, it was a very roundabout, cockamamie detour, which actually distracts you from the very things that you need in order to achieve your results, while wasting a lot of time and energy. So actually it made you use even more hard work that didn't really pay off. And everything we're going to be exploring in this course is about removing a lot of that fluff and filler to make it as quick, fast, and easy to go from where you are now to where you want to be be able to stay there, and to do it with much less work and resources in order to achieve a much higher level of your potential. So we'll see you in the next video, where I'm going to be discussing my 4 primary strategies to make everything in fitness a lot easier and much more effective from here and for the rest of your life. See you in the next video. Till then, be fit and live free.